in a place called Key West, Florida, the place to see. And here we are at the station called...
the National Weather Service Forecast Office in Key West, Florida.
That's right. And I am, again, with Chip, KASPER with a K. And we are going to talk about a few other things that are interesting here, like how Chip came upon being a weather... What's your exact title, by the way?
Meteorologist in charge of this office. So yeah, we're mostly meteorologists here and some technicians to help keep our radar and computer systems working.
But you're a head guy here.
Well, yeah, sometimes it doesn't feel like that, but yeah.
Ooh, okay. Well, I can tell by the way we did our first interview that you're very knowledgeable, and I was very impressed with the interview. So let's do this again. Let's talk about where you went to school and at what age you started liking the weather.
Yeah, so if you talk to a lot of meteorologists, many of them gained an interest when they were a child. There was usually a weather event that kind of sparked that natural wonder and curiosity, and that kind of led them down the path to going to school to become a meteorologist. And I was no different. For me, I was about 12 years old, and I was on a family vacation in Texas and encountered a hurricane at that time, just south of Houston. And so just kind of experiencing the landfall of a major hurricane overnight, and just watching the power and the damage and everything that was happening, even the drama surrounding the communication of the hurricane and its hazards, really just really enthralled me. And I ended up going home after that and visiting my local library, which is only a few blocks from where I lived, and basically checked out every book I could on weather, and just really kind of developed a really keen interest in it, and eventually connected with one of the television meteorologists, from where I was from, and
yeah, it just happened naturally.
And then figured out, okay, I had to do good in math and science in high school.
Oh, yes.
Kind of prepare to go to a college, and I ended up going to Florida State University eventually, and then joining the National Weather Service. So yeah, it started pretty young.
I guess so. Okay, and from there, let's talk about what you want to talk about most.
Well, with weather, it's interesting because every day is kind of an adventure in a way. I mean, even though we really focus on marine weather hazards here in the Florida Keys right now, it's during the spring and during Florida's dry season, and we have a wildfire just up the
do
road.
We ever?
To actually intermittently close the road coming into the Keys, and so meteorologists, one of the missions is fire weather, and so the people that are trying to keep people safe from fires, that are fighting the fires, they need weather information.
Can you please define for me fire weather? I mean, this is like the new thing, fire weather, to a lot of people.
Well, I mean, everybody knows what fire is, but the way fire behaves is heavily dependent on a lot of factors, but weather is a significant one of those factors. And so what the winds are doing obviously has an effect, but also very importantly, the amount of moisture, not only in the fuels, in the trees and in the brush, but also in the air. So the combination of wind and moisture, really significantly determines how fire can spread, and where it moves. And so when there are large wildfires like out west, you hear about the big fires, in California recently, for example, or in Oregon or Washington, or any of the states out west, or even more recently in Oklahoma and Texas. When you get those big fires developing, the special sort of breed of meteorologists will go to those fires, and we call that an incident meteorologist, or IMET, and they are specifically trained on fire weather and behavior and how to communicate with the people that are fighting the fire. And so this program has actually been around over 100 years in the National Weather Service.
Let me ask you this about the fire tornadoes, or what are these things called? Fire-nado or fire tornadoes?
Yeah,
that's like, what happens with that? It's like the wind and
yeah, it's kind of like I mean, obviously fire is very hot, and so it heats the air right above it, and that hot air as it rises can attain a spin.
it creates like a cone-like thing, and then all of a sudden you see these flames twirling like a tornado. I mean, this is from our eyes, and
it's kind of a cousin of a tornado.
Cousin? Okay.
More closer to a dust devil.
Yeah.
But definitely a convective vortex, as we say, and you'll see them in some of the larger fires.
And that could pick up things right off the ground too in flames.
Well,
wow.
yeah, no, I mean locally you could have some pretty good whirls, but they're not quite like a real tornado that you would see, coming from a thunderstorm cloud, for example. It's not as destructive as those.
So Chip, I'm listening to the weather stations down here. I'm listening to all kinds of stations buzzing in from one to another because I'm staying in the Keys. I don't plan on leaving until this thing is over. Honestly, I'm not taking a risk. I'm not going to go into heavy traffic. And there's communications are out in some places. And with the next 2 days, from what I understood, you would know better, the winds are picking up today, the winds are picking up tomorrow. Okay, so say I was going to leave on Monday. That's not looking so great yet. What is your take? And then tell the audience what your purpose is here to coincide with Homestead and to, assist people in this.
Well, right now, from our perspective, we're really just trying to help with the communication, because the actual wildfire is not within our service area. It's within the Miami forecast offices area, and they're doing what we call spot forecasts, several every day. These are specialized wind and weather forecasts specifically for the fire location, and it helps the emergency responders and the firefighters to fight the fire. And they're slowly being able to do that. It takes a while with a large wildfire. It takes time to get it under control and then eventually to eliminate it. And so that process is going on right now. I know the state of Florida has several people from the Forest Service there, and Miami-Dade County is on top of it all the way. They got a lot of people and a lot of resources. We're getting help from other partners coming up from the other part of the state to really fight this wildfire, to keep people safe. So right now, from the National Weather Service in Key West's perspective, we're helping to communicate via social media. We're also in our forecast, the wind shifted last night, so some of those areas of smoke are kind of blowing into our Upper Keys communities near North Key Largo. But slowly that fire is going to get under control, and hopefully before Monday, but if not, then certainly shortly thereafter.
Good to know. So am I right about the wind, though? There's wind today, there's wind Saturday in the forecast, and then maybe some rain in the forecast for Monday?
Yeah, it's this is our dry season, so rain is usually, if it occurs, it's kind of hit and miss. It doesn't happen everywhere at once, but there's certainly a chance of rain. The winds, again, this time of year, we see them fluctuate quite a bit. We did have a surge following a cold front last night, but those winds will shift around and start to come down later today and tomorrow, but then we'll have another one later in the week or next week. So, that's kind of par for the course in the springtime here in the Keys.
The level of drought is pretty bad here, I guess, right now. But anything that would come down, now, I'm a baby in this. So anything that would come down from Homestead, let's just say the wind really picked up and spread these flames and blah, blah, blah. What happens when it reaches the Keys? You've got the water it doesn't really get down to the Keys. You've never had a wildfire like in the Keys, have you?
Oh, yes, we have. Yeah.
Oh.
Not that large, of course.
No.
We don't have that much land, but
That's what I mean.
We have wildfires. We
certainly
do, yeah.
But not to that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and our local firefighting community and our, our partners with the Division of Forestry and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service are very, very cognizant of those kinds of threat, and we do a daily planning forecast to help them, ascertain the threat for wildfires, especially during the dry season, because the Keys there's not a lot of land and there's a lot of houses close to some of these forests, and so we really try to nip that in the butt if we see any threat for wildfires.
Wow. Okay, I'm so happy to meet you today.
Likewise.
And I do have another question, of course. I'm very curious. Tell me about tsunami here in Key West. Has there ever been one?
Well, I mean, I've been here a long time, and I don't really remember a significant damaging tsunami in the Keys. I'm sure in history there has been, but there's a couple things that make us a little less vulnerable to some of the really large and damaging tsunami that you hear about worldwide.
Right.
Part of it has to do with kind of our location. If you look at where the Florida Keys are, we're an archipelago, kind of at the southern tip of Florida. You have the large island of Cuba just to our south, 90 miles away, and then the Bahama Islands are just to the east, and then of course the peninsula to the north, and the continental United States to the north and northwest. And so tsunami typically will develop in association with earthquakes, which occur along kind of major fault zones. And if you look at where those zones are, there's one north of Puerto Rico, and there's another one kind of in the Caribbean Sea near the Cayman Islands. And so
Right.
a lot of times tsunami in this part of the world will develop in those locations, and for the waves to propagate outward and reach the Keys, they really have trouble doing that because they're blocked by all these islands. There are, in some of the worst case scenarios, you could get, the modeling shows that you could get a tsunami in the Keys. It would probably not be greater than a foot in those cases, but they probably could cause significant disruption to some of the currents.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't have
So you're
zero impact.
You're basically protected here,
from
but
the large sort of seismic,
yes.
tsunamis. Now there are other cases where you could have like sediment drops, like the Bahama Banks, or maybe in the central Gulf of Mexico, and those scenarios, which are highly unlikely, but those scenarios could create a more significant tsunami in the Keys. But again, we're talking about something that has an extremely low probability of ever happening.
You've had it all here, I'm sure. The hurricanes, the tornadoes, the flooding.
Hurricane season is something we focus on, obviously, here in the Florida Keys. Greatly on, and of course hurricane season in this part of the world runs from June 1st through November 30th, and so here on March 21st we're just a little more than 2 months away from the beginning of hurricane season. And so hurricanes can cause a major disruption to life and property from their hazards, which include not only the hurricane core sustained damaging and destructive winds, but also those outer rain band tornadoes I talked about, significant rainfall, flooding, and of course the storm surge being the biggest. That's the rise of the ocean, which is really one of the biggest causes of death in hurricanes over the centuries. And then the marine impacts here in the Keys, the powerful waves and the surfs and the current. A lot of ships at sea need to avoid hurricanes. That's the best thing you can do if you're a ship.
You got that right.
Is to get out of the way. And so we work with our partners in the Coast Guard and Florida Fish and Wildlife.
Everybody works together
to try to get everybody, safe and out of the way. And we work with our local elected officials and emergency managers to evacuate populations at risk. And then we work with the community to try to get everything open after the storm moves through. So this time of year, we're just encouraging people in the Keys to have a plan, have a hurricane plan, know what to do if you have to evacuate, know what to do for the some of the weaker storms where if you're going to stay here, but the power may go out and you need to be ready for that. So, you know, we have a lot of new residents coming into the Keys every year, and they may not know about hurricanes. So if you're one of those new residents, I would encourage you to reach out to our website, weather.gov/KEY, or MonroeCountyEM.com, or ready.gov, and to figure out what you might need to do to prepare for hurricane season.
I started at Yale Radio it just came to mind, and I started an organization called preparetoprotect.org. I'm going to get a grant, and I want to have it built. I have this idea in my mind, but it's going to take a lot of work, and I have not had the time, unfortunately. But here I am visiting the Keys. I've been here for quite a while. I don't plan on leaving for a little while, as I told you before. Okay, so I am one of the people, or I should say, people are all wondering right now. This is the most important thing. People are wondering how to prepare for this wildfire and what to do once again. What I want to know is, should I stay or should I go?
Well, I would definitely keep track of what's going on with the road closures, because now right now my understanding is that Card Sound Road is closed, but US 1 is actually open, or most of the time, at least right now.
They reopened, yes.
And so, you know, they're not going to reopen that road unless it's safe to do so. There may be delays though, so I would definitely check with the Monroe County Sheriff's Office in particular. They have an excellent website and social media presence.
Thanks for that, because I don't want to be in a 6-hour, 5-hour delay on the road when I don't have to leave.
Right.
I just want to leave at a safe time, you know. And for myself, I was going to leave on Monday, but we'll see. I don't mind staying, you know. I'll stay here.
Especially this time of year.
I'll stay here, no problem. Key West is just fantastic. The nightlife, the breezes, the warm tropical breezes. Let me ask you this. We're going to go off this a little bit. If you was to go to a restaurant for seafood, where would you go in Key West?
There's so many good ones.
I know.
Yeah.
There's too many.
I don't think you can lose, really. Yeah.
I know. He doesn't want to. He knows a lot of people here.
I've been here too long.
I know. You
they're
don't
all
want to
good.
play
They're all
favorites.
good.
I know. He'll tell me when we get off the camera. I want to go for a good place for hot soup today, because it's a little cooler today. And maybe a nice fish sandwich of some sort. Well, we're going to figure that one out. But it's time for us to say goodbye at Get With The Program in a place called Key West. And it was so nice meeting KASPER with a K. And guys, you have gotten yourself a great education. He is a good guy. He is really, really on the ball. And I'm so glad I came here today to meet you. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you,
and your
Deborah.
help to the public.
Appreciate
Get With
that.
The Program.